Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Russell E. Diethrick Jr. Park. For those of you who have never been in a locker room before, this is the locker room. We're the Jammers. You're in the Jammers home locker room, the clubhouse here. It was several months ago, I was telling my friend Greg Peterson here that we were assembled on this very spot on October 24th, 2018. And it was one of those announcements that was bad news, but also light at the end of the tunnel that we were pretty sure was not an oncoming train at that point in time. And the bad news is that the Jamestown Jammers had announced that they were not going to be playing for the 2019 season in the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, and that the league had granted them an inactive status for the 2019 season, but had also granted them re-entry for the 2020 season if in fact several conditions were met. And we had the commissioner of the Perfect Game League with us that day, Bob Julian, and the conditions were that the owners of the Jammers, ROC Ventures Incorporated from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, would be able to actually secure a transfer agreement with a locally based organization that was in the process of being conceived and formed and nurtured. And that was the good news at the time, that while Milwaukee, the Milwaukee-based ownership group, was no longer going to be operating a team here, they had agreed to turn the franchise rights over to a locally based organization if or when one could be formed. And that was the good news that day, that there was an opportunity for baseball again, young men and women of Jamestown, right here at Diethrick Park, and that there was a group being talked about and formulated to do just that. And with that, I am going to, now with that set up, turn the podium over to my good friend and partner in baseball and a variety of other things, Greg Peterson, to talk a little bit about, and maybe a lot about, what has been underway since October 24th, 2018, the status of the efforts to put together a new locally based and operated ownership group, and where things are at now and where things will be heading in the coming months. So with that, Greg Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I must tell you, this would not have happened. We would not be here today if it weren't for the mayor. He's a baseball aficionado extraordinaire. He is focused. He comes to as many baseball games as the baseball players. And so and the Troxels. Those are the
Right.
ones. And so he really sort of orchestrated this opportunity, and as he said, he discussed it with the then ownership and current ownership out of Milwaukee ROC, and they said if and when they would be willing to work with us. Well, I'm here to say that the if and when is now. The future is now. This is the George Allen moment where we can say that with a sense of pride. After the mayor teed it up, a number of community leaders and other people concerned with the long-standing history of baseball here in Jamestown, especially baseball here at the Russell E. Diethrick Jr. Park, is maintained. And so this is historic. This is historic. Historic in the sense that it's really been the first time since really the early 60s that this baseball is owned by community-owned individuals. And at that time, it was spearheaded by Russell E. Diethrick Jr. And I'm pleased to report that as the future has become now, that the now is again spearheaded by Mr. Baseball, Russell E. Diethrick Jr. And so we're very, very excited about the launch, and with that comes opportunities for a variety of collaborations We've discussed collaborations, and we'll discuss a little bit later on with the Secrets of Champions Foundation, Jamestown Community College, and other organizations in the area who've all stepped forward with one goal in mind, one common goal, to keep baseball here in Jamestown. And so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with we created an organization early on called the Jamestown Community Baseball LLC. And we have all of our board members are here today. They've been active. We've been meeting every other week. And are moving ahead at warp speed. And the first real formal announcement is today. The first formal projected action is to signing in a few moments the actual asset purchase agreement, which actually transfers the franchise to the Jamestown Community Baseball LLC. It's subject to two things. One is approval from the league, which we got a letter just the other day from the commissioner of the league, Bob Julian, who was here back in October, and tonight's proposed action at the Jamestown City Council to approve the transfer and assignment and assumption of the current lease that the city has with it's called Jamestown Baseball, which is the ROC folks. So that's incredibly exciting for us, incredibly exciting for the community, because trust me, when the word got out that Jamestown Jammers would be dark in 2019, there was a hue and cry. Like, how can that happen? Is there a prospect of this happening again in the near future? And the answer is yes. We can answer that affirmatively. In 2020, we'll be here with all guns a-blazing as the Jamestown Jammers 2020. I thought it'd be helpful for all of us to get our heads wrapped around kind of the history of this in a Reader's Digest format, because it is long and it involves a lot of players, a lot of owners. It's rich, no pun intended, rich baseball history. And so I've asked Randy Anderson, the president of the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame and the knowledge of all things history, to sort of give us a Reader's Digest. Randy?
Thanks, Greg. So, next Monday, a week from today, is May 6th. 78 years ago, in 1941, this ballpark opened for the first time. So 78 years later, here we are now. Municipal Stadium, as it was called back then, was built on a 20-acre site. Those 20 acres, Mayor, were purchased for $3,000. You'd make that deal today, wouldn't you? The stadium was built for the grand total of $60,000. You'd make that deal today, right, Dave? Over the ensuing years, the stadium has hosted professional minor league baseball for various Jamestown teams, known as the Falcons, the Tigers, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Falcons again, the Expos, and the Jammers. Those teams were affiliated at various times with the following Major League Baseball organizations: the Detroit Tigers, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Atlanta Braves, the Boston Red Sox, the Montreal Expos, and the Florida Marlins. Following the departure of the minor league Jammers to Morgantown, West Virginia, in 2014, Collegiate Wood Bat League Baseball came to Diethrick Park, playing under the name of the Jamestown Jammers from 2015 through 2018. And now, following a one-year hiatus to allow reorganization, the Jamestown Jammers will again return to the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League in 2020 to continue the grand tradition of baseball at historic Diethrick Park. Thank you.
I think it's appropriate that we also acknowledge the fact that we would, again, not be here but through the beneficence of Mike Zimmerman and ROC. thinking outside the box, that this would be an opportunity to continue baseball here. And they have literally donated that facility to an organization, again, if and when we got organized, and we've satisfied that condition today. I'd also like to call the Mr. Baseball up here now. Russ Diethrick, as we've mentioned his name over and over again, not only as an integral part of the history as chairman of the community group back in the 60s, but also chairman of the group here. And as Russ comes forward, I just also want to acknowledge our board of directors. Russ, who is the chairman of the board, June, our steady secretary treasurer to keep us all on the straight and narrow, Randy Anderson, Randy Sweeney, George Carlo, George Sisson, and myself. That's the group that is our initial board of directors, and we look forward to working with the entire community. But without any further ado, and again, we would not be here but for Russ Diethrick.
Thank you, thank you. Somewhere in here is 35 minutes of comments.
I just heard all the cameras go off.
Great to be here on this day. It's a great day to be at this stadium any day of the 365 days a year and the 24 hours in a day. Any moment that you can be in this stadium or be on a baseball field is a great time. But especially to have that baseball field confined within the confines of the city of Jamestown and the county of Chautauqua and the state of New York, and we've got it all here, and it's nice to be part of it. As we think about, and you listen to Greg and the others about the history of the stadium and what it's all about and what it has meant so much, it's been so very important to this community, and it feels good today to see Jamestown taking an attitude of standing on its foundation of the past at this moment and launching into the future again with baseball here in town. And it means so very, very much. Randy talked about some of the roster of the teams that have been here over the years. There's probably 200 or more ones that played on the local team here professionally that went to the major leagues. And then you add that by the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of others that came into this stadium on the visiting teams, reaching for a baseball career, and they had the opportunity to play in Jamestown. We think about 1980, when Jamestown was first thought of by Babe Ruth Baseball International to bring their youth program on the World Series level, where they bring all the national champions together to play the World Series. And they've been doing that on a regular basis. There's 17 or 18 or more World Series that have been held in Jamestown, and one coming right on the breath of when we start the Jammer program in 2020. They'll be here in August with the Babe Ruth World Series. Babe Ruth Baseball has an opportunity to take their program any place in the nation almost. And they have picked many times after their first step here. And that first step was taken very comfortably because they knew of the Jamestown people. They knew of the Babe Ruth program in Jamestown, the youth program going. So Ron Tellison, the president at that time, had very great comforts about bringing that national program to Jamestown. And after 1980, and about the second day of the 1980 World Series, they sort of cleared their throat and said, would you consider doing this again? And I said, well, talk to some of the local people. We had a very short conference, and I said, yes, they would like to do it. When do you have in mind? And Ron Tellison cleared his throat, and he said, next year. So in 1980, when they were back, and they've been coming back regularly. Not because of who stands before you at the podium today, but because of this community and the activities in this community. The opportunity to come in to play at this stadium, whether you were a 13-year-old or whether you're a 19-year-old in the Babe Ruth program. The meeting the host families and meeting the community and meeting how the community felt about it and all of the other things. And the press was there. The press was every moment. Jim Roselli talked to, there was 2,000 people in the grandstand. Jim Roselli talked to every one of them. And that program was out, and the paper covered it. And they had to print extra papers after every ball game because many of the copies of the paper went around the country by the families and the activities and the radio and the recordings and all of those kind of things. And back in 1980, those youngsters were 13 years old. I'm sure you can talk to any one of them and maybe even some of their grandchildren, and they'll know about Jamestown, New York, and they'll know about baseball here. And it's good because it's a baseball capital, it's a baseball facility, and it's a baseball community. But a lot of other things have happened out of that. Out of this program here in Jamestown, there's a young man who was out there playing in the dirt, putting down lines, well, that's crooked, well, straighten it out, and do a little bit of work on the mound. There was a young man doing that. And Montreal was in here at that point in time, and Jim Fanning was player development, was in to have just a little meeting. And we got together, and he'd come up there, I says, who's that guy, what's he do? I said, well, he's a summer in program, and he's a groundskeeper here at the stadium. He said, no, he's not a groundskeeper at the stadium. I said, what? He says, well, I'm with Montreal. He says he's coming with us. And Danny Lanetta stepped off the ground and stepped into that role, and his role is still now felt in professional baseball year after year after year. Tom Castro was a groundskeeper here also, and what did Montreal do with him? In the off-season, the season wasn't played here, they took him south to their major league complex to help make the field playable at a major league level, and all of that kinds of things happened here. And all of those kind of things. We could go on for an hour, day after day, talking about what happens. So it's a very proud moment for the community. It's something that the community is excited about, and we have an opportunity to do that. In fact, there's some families that got together here. A pretty little girl and a shy little guy off in the corner watching the ball game. And they kind of got together, and life went on together, them holding hands. And so there's all of those kinds of opportunities here when we think about what can happen at a ballpark and what can happen in our community. So I think I've run out of paper in that book, but again, thanks to the community. And the community, we talk about a community, but a community is you. All of you folks and how you feel and how you support and you do. And the other wonderful thing about all of you and all the other people in this community, it's not all just baseball. All of the athletic programs and the athletic ventures in young people's hearts are available in Jamestown, whether it's football, whether it's soccer, whether it's swimming, or whatever it might be. And there are no better, I've been told this by others, but feel confident about it, there are no better services and programs for the aged population than within the city of Jamestown and the county of Chautauqua through its senior citizen activities and its senior citizen programs. So it all because of you people and all of the friends you have. And you're the first ones to say, no, it's not me. I also feel that it is not me. It is the team. It's a team effort in this community. Whether it's putting this baseball together, whether it's putting something else together, or whether it's getting two people to go over next door and mow your neighbor's lawn. All of that happens in this community because of you people. And that's why in 2020 it's going to be a very, very outstanding, successful program here on this field and in this community called baseball. And it's going to play not in the shadow of the past, but it's going to play in the sunshine of the future because of all of that. So God bless all of you, and thank you for sharing with everything. And the only other thing you have to do is remember, when you come to a ball game, you do not come alone, because there's an extra seat right next to you. So bring them all, and if you don't have a chance to get the evening meal ready or the afternoon meal, well, come on down to the stadium for supper or breakfast, or even breakfast too. So it's all can happen here at the stadium, and you'll have lifetime of memories forever and ever and ever. And I've got to have a good feeling. And if somebody, you feel a thump on your back once in a while, it's because somebody either standing next to you or somebody up there is patting you on the back and saying thank you.
Now that Russ has said this so eloquently, I can see this was not your first rodeo today here. So if we could do that which you did back in the 60s, this is the actual asset transfer document, and if you'll sign that now as chairman of the Jamestown Community Baseball LLC.
Just one thing, June, am I allowed to sign this?
Yeah.
He said if you don't, you won't get supper. I hate to shortchange you on that signature. It should say senior, because he was the best Russell E. Diethrick in the world. Senior.
We'll accept this stuff. Thank you, Russ, ever so much. This doesn't happen. Gosh, I could go on forever without Russ. But you know what's unique about this is we have this collaborative opportunity. We talk about community, it is community, and various organizations who have a basis in this community have stepped forward to offer up their services, their talents, their time. Today I want to highlight one of these, and it's a Jamestown native in the form of George Carlo, who's Dr. George Carlo, who's gone on to a great deal of fame and fortune and all kinds of activities, and he'll explain it. But we have an opportunity to collaborate with what George Carlo and the Secrets of Champions Foundation does throughout the country. And he's bringing that here, and he's bringing those talents to be part of our Jamestown Community Baseball LLC. And so I'm going to ask George to come up and to talk a little bit about his program. We also have a memorandum of understanding. So Russ, I guess we're going to be signing one more document before the day is done. So George, Dr. George Carlo.
Thank you. Well, it's certainly an honor to be part of the ongoing legacy of good baseball in Jamestown. On a personal note, in 1964, I was the bat boy out here for the Jamestown Tigers. Wow. And while I was with the Tigers as a performance coach and a director of performance for 14 years, I got ribbing every year because I held the record for the longest time in a Tigers uniform. Now, we established our Secrets of Champions Foundation here in Jamestown last year. It's a 501c3, and the purpose of the foundation is to bring to the community those things that we have been doing with professional and high-level athletes around the world for the past 25 years. So that the idea here is that there's lots of competition out there for the hearts and minds of our young people. And sometimes what they follow takes them down paths that are good, and other times what they follow takes them down paths that make their life a real challenge. And our belief is that instead of violent video games and social media and dark spots on the internet, we believe that the baseball diamond and other sports fields are better learning grounds for life in general. And that's the purpose of our Secrets of Champions Foundation. Now, what we have been able to offer to this new Jamestown Jammers franchise activity is the on-the-field part of the franchise. So we will bring our Secrets of Champions trained coaches and managers into the effort. We will focus not only on baseball skills. We're going to put a very good product on the field, I can guarantee you that. But we're also going to focus on other things: mental skills, physical training, how the mind-body connection works, nutrition, energy management, sleep, repair and recovery. All of those things, which are part of player development, will allow us to have the Jamestown Jammers become a player development destination for college players all around the country. And that's exactly how we're going to recruit players to come to the Jamestown Jammers. And I will tell you, just talking about this a little bit, many of my former colleagues with the Tigers, former players who are now coaches in universities, when I mentioned to them that we're going to have this program, immediately we'll send you our best. So we're gonna have a lot of fun, and we're gonna do something very, very meaningful here. It's an honor for all of us. Now, the 2020 Jamestown Jammers manager is going to be Jordan Bazile. Jordan has been with us in the Secrets of Champions since he was my intern with the Detroit Tigers in 2011. And Jordan is right now he's the head coach at Patrick Henry Community College in Martinsville, Virginia. Jordan's going to come back to Jamestown. He'll be the manager of the Jammers. And what we hope to do is this summer have Secrets of Champions, Jamestown Jammers summer camps, baseball camps here. So we're working out some of the details so that while the Jammers, on the field, perfect game collegiate baseball league team will be dark, the Jamestown Jammers and Secrets of Champions will not. So we're going to have activities here. We also have a very good working relationship with Frank Jagoda, another Chautauqua County native. Frank is one of our Secrets of Champions guys. Frank coached my son Jake when he pitched here at Jamestown Community College. And Frank went on to be the head coach at Patrick Henry. When he took a job with the Minnesota Twins, Jordan Brazil stepped in to be the head coach. And Frank spent 1 year with the Twins, and now he is the Director of Player Development for the 18 and under age group for USA Baseball in Durham, North Carolina. And Frank has agreed to cooperate fully with us in terms of sending us players and helping us define our player development program that's going to be part of the Jamestown Jammers so that players will come here to earn and learn the tools that will make them succeed at the next level. So that's what we're going to do. It's an honor to be part of it, and I thank all of you for this great opportunity. And go Jammers!
While we have George up here, I'm going to get him to sign this memorandum of understanding, and with the understanding for all the board members, clearly what drives him is a uniform, so if we can get an extra Jammers uniform to give him. And then Russ, I'll ask you to come up too. Russ, come on up.
Excuse me.
Maybe you guys can pose for a picture there.
Around the world.
You've been talking about the skill and the athletes and the ball players that come through here, but to me, the important thing in the dugout and the ball game when it's over and all of the things that they're doing as we look at the history, it's nice to have those professional ball players here. It's nice to have those that went on to professional baseball and college baseball. It's been nice to have those ones here that they're, Randy Johnson and Nellie Fox, going to Cooperstown, and it's been nice that they were part of that. But the real strength and the real strong thing about that is those fellows that were sitting in that dugout and were on that playing field and were in the bullpen, day after day after day, season after season after season. They didn't go to the major leagues. They didn't go here and they didn't go there. They went home to a community, was an outstanding father and a member of a family. They went to a profession back home where they were key and they were outstanding in their community. They were the nuts and bolts of many communities all around the country. And a lot of that happened because they were sitting in that dugout, they were learning how to play as a team, and they were learning to do all of that. So the important thing to Major League Baseball is the player that's coming on and going on to Cooperstown. But the important thing for humanity and civilization is all of those people on that dugout day after day that were a member of a team. And if they didn't go to the major leagues, they certainly went to a higher level and everything else that they ever done. And that was because of the opportunity, number one, to play baseball, number two was to be in this community, and number three was to sit in that dugout as a member of the team.
That's right.
Russ, don't run away yet. Come up here. I guess I'm the Mariano Rivera, I'm the closer here, right? And then we'll open it up for any questions, obviously, yeah, right? For any of the members of JCB LLC to talk about what's going to be happening in case Scott or any of the media members have any questions. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening moving forward from a city government perspective. But before that, there's too much humility going around this room here today, and it starts right over to my immediate right. What's the name of this place again? Anybody tell me what the name of this place is?
Yeah, right.
Russell E. Diethrick Jr. Park. We've had 2 official names of this ballpark since it opened on May 6, 1941, and 1 unofficial name. The official name up until August of 1997, as Randy had indicated, was Jamestown Municipal Stadium. For a period of time through the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, right up until August of 1997, it was unofficially known as College Stadium because the sign changed out in front, but the name never actually changed. And there was a city council meeting that was held here in August during the middle of a Jamestown Jammers game in which the name officially changed to Russell E. Diethrick Jr. Park. And it was changed for very good reasons, because this place wouldn't have lasted and been here had it not been for the past efforts of a lot of people, but particularly any group needs a leader, and he's been the baseball leader of this community since I think he's taken his first breath. There was a time during the 60s when minor league baseball was struggling, and it was struggling out everywhere. It wasn't the massive industry that it is today, and it was struggling here. And Russ stepped in on several occasions. He was wearing his Parks Director's hat, but he was wearing his hat as the guy that had a lifetime love affair with Jamestown and baseball, and stepped forward and continued it out of his own pocket and doing exactly what Greg and the group are doing today, enlisting supporters from around the community to keep the business, to keep the dream alive until somebody else could step forward. And it was Russ that went out and recruited Jim Fanning and the Montreal Expos to come here in 1973, and then they went on hiatus for a few years, and to bring them back in 1977, where they had a run right through the 1993 season. There's good reason this ballpark, its name was changed in 1997 to Russell E. Diethrick Jr. There was a lot of folks that were responsible for keeping the edifice standing and the playing field in terrific condition and games going on here. But those folks would have never had the opportunity had Russ not kept this place standing and professional baseball going on here and all of the youth organizations functioning here. And the other thing, the man is much too humble for this to admit this. Babe Ruth baseball was here because of one guy, and one guy only over these years, and it's been him. It's been him. Period. He struck up a relationship with Ron Tellefson, the chairman and CEO, president and CEO of Babe Ruth Baseball, through a, I believe it was 1973, Russ, that you hosted the Mid-Atlantic Regionals here.
73, 75.
And he wound up putting together a group of folks that was able to impress Babe Ruth Baseball in his personal relationship with Ron Tellefson and the baseball gods of that wonderful organization to give us a try in 1980. I don't know this for a fact, but I have a funny feeling that Russ impressed Ron Tellefson first before he came back and said, could you take this series off of our hands in 1980? We don't know what to do with the first 13-year-old program World Series in 1980. This is the guy, this is the reason why his name is on the outside of the building. It's in our vernacular now and always will be on the outside of this building. I want to bring you into the present. The Jammers may be going dark for a season and re-entering with all of their glory next year. But as Dr. George indicated, there's a lot of life to this ballpark. I've heard it, and it has really bothered me in recent months. Why are we spending money keeping up a ballpark that doesn't have any use in it? This place will be alive and humming during this summertime like it is every summertime. Professional and now collegiate baseball, summer collegiate ball, is one of many, many uses of this ballpark. And the Secrets of Champions organization will be one of many that will be continuing to use this ballpark this year with Jamestown area old timers, Babe Ruth baseball, JCC Jayhawks. They were nice enough to allow us to come and invade their home and get it cleaned up enough for this indoor event today that we hope to do outdoors. Section 6 baseball still plays games here, as well as a lot of other tournaments that play here during the summertime. And I want to look, and I'm looking for, if you guys could please raise your arms, Jeff Lehman, our Director of Public Works, and Acting Parks Director, John Williams, our Parks Manager, and Julia Cecil Hanley, our Recreation Coordinator. This is the staff, along with Dom Salvaggio from the City of Jamestown Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Department, that runs the program here every year. And there's more baseball played at Diethrick Park in a typical summertime, more games than you see at a major league stadium. 81 games at a major league stadium minus rainouts. We average between 80 to 120 games a year at Diethrick Park, depending on what's happening with the Babe Ruth World Series and so forth. This facility gets tremendous use. That field gets overuse out there, and it's a testimony to the best public workforce you're going to find anywhere in the nation, our Parks Department here, that makes this place playable, and it's a wonderful facility, one of the best in the nation. The other thing that I want to give some credit to, Greg alluded to it, I want to expand upon it. We wouldn't have baseball here today for another reason and for another group, and that's Mike Zimmerman, Dan Kenzie, and ROC Ventures Incorporated from Milwaukee. They stepped forth and filled the void with the Perfect Game League team and franchise that has been operating here. When they had an opportunity to sell the team, the reason they're leaving here isn't because the town has fallen out of love with baseball. This is a passion, this is a love for people in this community, and always will be. Their business in the Midwest was expanding and exploding to new levels. They're about ready to open up a new $130 million sports park in suburban Milwaukee with a new American Association team. I love the name, the Milwaukee Milkmen. Playing in Kokomo, Indiana for the next couple of months until their new 7,000-seat stadium opens up in the middle of that new sports park. And they just couldn't give the love and attention to a collegiate team 600 miles away from their base of operations. They were going to sell this team. And to their credit and their credit alone, because of the good experience that they had operating here in Jamestown and their affinity for the people here and the ballpark and the tradition of baseball, and Mr. Diethrick again decided to donate the franchise to a community-based organization if we could get up and running. Greg alluded to it, I alluded to it before. When we were here on October 24th with Bob Julian, the commissioner of the Perfect Game League, with us, who indicated that if we could put it together, they'd hold the spot for us without a league reentry fee of $60,000. And that's huge too. And as we stood at this podium back in October, I had confidence that our community would do what it always does. It would step up, and working together, we'd get it done. But there was a little tinge of concern in me that we'd actually be able to pull it off this time. Until I was invited, and I had the opportunity to go for the first meeting with the group that Greg was putting together. I lost all concern at that point in time and knew that it was only a matter of time before we would be back here assembled making this announcement that we're getting it done. Moving forward, there's a couple of things that the city needs to do that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. I see Councilman Andy Liuzzo back here. It reminds me that something very important, Councilman, needs to happen tonight. There's going to be a resolution that is going to be presented under new business. And that resolution will do a couple of things. It will authorize the assignment of the lease from ROC Ventures, actually Jamestown Baseball, LLC. Ours is Jamestown Community Baseball, LLC. Also, an arm of ROC Ventures doing business as the Jamestown Jammers. That lease will be assigned from the Milwaukee-based ownership group that has the lease of the non-exclusive summertime lease of the ballpark to the new organization that's been set up. The new organization has also requested, and this will be part of the resolution that the city council will be dealing with tonight, there are 2 5-year renewal options on that lease. And they have requested by letter to me, from Russ to me, that they would like to exercise the first 5-year renewal option, which will assure that Jamestown Jammers baseball will be here at least through the end of the 2025 playing season. And there's another 5-year renewal option on the backside of that when that time comes that they're comfortable to exercise that. So that's what's going to be happening at tonight's city council meeting. The deal is contingent upon league approval, which we have now received in writing from Bob Julian last week, and also the signing of your agreement with ROC Ventures. We've got one signature down, we get the other one back from Milwaukee, and what we will be doing is pulling together a ceremony to sign the new lease and get it into the hands of Jamestown Community Baseball, LLC. We look forward to doing that. This is a good thing, this is a right thing, this is a wonderful facility that the city has quarterbacked over the past 20 to 25 years, over $2 million of improvements in this complex and counting. You talk about a $60,000 project. I also have to say that our friends in Falconer, you don't know this, Randy, I did a lot of research on Jamestown Municipal Stadium. Our friends in Falconer donated $3,000 for the construction of this ballpark back in 1940. The Kendall Club Police Benevolent Association built the first fence. It was a wooden slat fence around the facility. They built it as a community service project. And you're wondering how a facility like this could be built for $60,000? A lot of community donations. This was probably a $250,000 facility at the time if you consider all of the in-kind services and off-the-books contributions. It was $60,000 of contracted work. But this facility has been a gem since it opened on May 6, 1941. It is today, and it's only going to get better in the future. The city's committed to this. The community is committed to this. And the organization, Greg, that you with a little help from your friends have built is terrific. This is how we get things done in Jamestown. This is just the latest example. This isn't obviously going to mean thousands of new high-paying tech jobs for the community, but it's important. It's an economic development contributor because it's good for the psyche of the community, okay? The quality of life in the community, and all of that mixed together in a cocktail and everything good that's happening around leads directly or indirectly to the retention and the creation of jobs in the greater Jamestown area. This is a piece to the puzzle. Don't undervalue it, don't underestimate it. This is good, this is the right thing to do. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for keeping the dream alive. And someday, my son and I and my grandchildren might be able to come to a game here together. So, thank you.